One. Welcome to Gateway Open Office Hours. This is episode 28. I'm your host, Ben Larson. I'm here with Carter Laren, as always. Each week, we answer your questions from and discuss issues impacting early stage founders. You can join the discussion live on Facebook every Friday at 10 a.m. by going to oh.gtwi.co. If you have questions you want answered or topics you want addressed, simply comment on Facebook or tweet us at GTWI Inc. using the hashtag GatewayOH. And on to the show.
I was totally unprepared for that intro.
All right. Today we'll be talking about the founder mindset, or as I like to say, masochism.
Yeah. Going crazy. Nice intro. But first, we have someone who knows more about this than we do. You know what, Iris? I never know how to say your last name. I'm gonna butcher it. Iris Charabi Berggren. No.
Pretty close, actually. Very, very
Okay.
good. Sharabi Berggren.
Sharabi Berggren.
Yes.
She's
like Chanel.
Okay. Iris is an executive coach, founder specialty almost. I don't know if that. You say
Yes,
that
I work
publicly.
with lots of founders.
Yeah, and we bring her in to help our founders often. And so what better topic to have you on as a guest than
Thank you.
founder mindset? So, first, Iris was kind of blindsided this morning. Is that, can we say that?
Yes,
Can we admit?
proceed.
Yeah.
Yes.
By me. No.
You're just not the clearest communicators,
Yeah, fair.
obviously. So,
Yeah. So, apparently I wasn't clear that she was coming in for a show. She thought she was coming in for a normal session that she does with founders. So, if she seems a little bit deer in the headlights, you can blame us. But thank you for rolling with it.
She's the
Iris.
consummate
Sure, no problem.
entrepreneur.
So I thought Carter was just playful with his words when he said, "Come to our live show," because I'm always live in the room.
And I'm always playful.
Hi, all right.
Yes. So here we are in a different format, but I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
We usually do a little news thing at the beginning, but I don't think there's much to talk about other than that there's like a whole scare now with lethal bacteria and crap in marijuana, which
Bacteria, fungus, pesticides.
go do a controlled room grow, and then you don't have to worry about it.
This is a big reason why we need legalization, to kind of put in the framework that will protect people that are consuming. If you force everything into a black market, then people are just going to, be consuming whatever they are.
Unknowns.
Unknowns.
Unknowns. There
Yep.
you go.
So, yes. Don't have anything else to say about that. I'd rather move on to mindset. So, look, I think we're kind of unusual in our emphasis on founder mindset than compared to a lot of early stage programs that I see anyway. We recommend therapy to people, which usually makes people uncomfortable. But the truth is, it's really, really hard to start a company. So,
Can we just point out one of my favorite quotes from Elon Musk?
There we go.
Being an entrepreneur, like eating glass and staring into the abyss of death.
So not an optimist.
Not an optimist, no, but pretty accurate, actually.
Actually, do you think that's true, Iris? Or you can argue with Elon.
Well,
There are times.
He's not a god.
so you must like eating glass. Okay? So
Love it.
that component must be in there, otherwise it's unsustainable.
what he left out was and glass is delicious to me. Glass,
Exactly.
yeah, okay.
Because you know what it takes. It takes passion, great love for you to push through all that very hard glass to chew. So
Yeah.
that's
Awesome.
missing.
Okay, good. So let me just jump in with a few things. So one of the things we emphasize with founders is their mindset, and there's a lot of different models for mindset. And one of the ones that we talk about is the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. It was based on a book by Carol Dweck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she's not the only person to have talked about it.
Yes.
She's just the one I know.
Yes.
It's good book recommendation. Anyone, if they want to go get it. Does that match any of your experience, or I'd love for you to talk about that. That's a model that we like to use, but we're not experts.
No.
Do you see that model reflected in founders at all?
Yes. So first of all, so it's nice to simplify things, and the way I approach it, which is slightly similar, is like open mindset versus closed.
Okay.
And I actually prepared a really beautiful short clip for people to watch, so I would definitely post it up there for people to watch later.
Okay.
It's about improvisation. It's by Dave Morris. It's called The Way of Improvisation. It's a TED Talk. It's superb. And he talks about seven principles for people to kind of to use, and I think they're super relevant for founders.
Okay.
And it's really emphasizes the open mindset. So actually, I want to connect it to what we started with, all the unknowns about if the market is not regulated and there is unknown, and we want our consumers to know what they need. Is we want people to know how they feel. So we want the unknowns to not be our guidelines. We want to be in the know, right? So we can better communicate. And another thing that came up today too is we didn't communicate clearly enough, right? So you thought you expressed yourself, and I thought I understood what you mean, and we were like, yes, let's go for it. And then here we are, totally had totally different ideas of what is it that we want from each other. Right? So, and that, let's connect it to the founder's mindset, is we need a lot of clarity. We need to talk a lot. Actually, there isn't enough communications as founders with whoever is around us, with our collaborators, with people we work with VCs, anyone who is involved. So actually, when you said, Iris, come and talk about the founder's mindset, I had in mind to talk about actually designing alliances and how that connects to a mindset. So
it's super interesting because like I've been feeling this anxiety quite a bit lately because we're so busy all the time, right? Like every entrepreneur is, and really like a lot of times you just want to put your head down and crank on what you have to work on, but so much of being an entrepreneur is communication. You know you're working hard, but not everyone else does. So I was telling Carter earlier this week where it's like, people approach us and ask us to be advisors, and it's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do for you? And they're like, oh, here's all the things that I think you can contribute, and I think that's like 1% worth 1% of my company. And I'm like, okay, that sounds fair. And then I never hear from them. And I'm just like, and I start to feel guilty, right? Like I'd like to earn, if I have a piece of company, I want to earn it, but I don't have the time because I'm an entrepreneur myself. I don't have the time to reach out to you proactively and ask how I can help.
Yes, and that's classic. So people start things, they don't follow through. But most importantly, what kind of designed alliance did you have with these people? Did you say, if we don't connect, how do you want me to be with that? Do you want to follow up? What is it that you need as support? And clearly articulate that with a long list of 100 items. If we don't agree on things, how do we design that moment of conflict? Right? And all of this leads to an open mindset of curiosity. What is missing here? What else do I need? What is the other person needing? So clarity and a lot of detail. This is often not the case. And I can share with you that I've been working with two co-founders for over a year, almost a year and a half. And I just met them last week. And again, and I see them regularly every month. I meet with them independently, one-on-one, and together. And it's amazing after a year and a half almost of working together, how many unknowns there are still there in the conversations. And how often they say, oh my God, we never talked about that. So a lot to explore and a lot to articulate.
Interesting. Do you notice a difference between founders and execs? Because I know you're at least your website says like executive coaching, but there is a distinct difference functionally between a founder and an exec at a large company. Do you notice a different set of psychological needs or any kind of difference between those clients?
So yes, if the founders are new to that role, yes. Because they have a lot to take in and there is a little more overwhelm and less definition to the role. And as they expand into the role, there are many more issues and problems they need to face. So higher stress level, less knowns, more unknowns.
Okay. That I guess that's not surprising.
Not surprising at all.
How important is the issue? I think you've seen me do a talk where I have everyone say, like, I am not my idea, and we talk about self-esteem. I think you've been in the room for that.
If not, she inspired it.
Oh, you definitely inspired it. I just don't remember if you were there for the...
I don't know if you ripped off, if you know I ripped off your idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. How important is self-esteem to founders?
Very important. Very, very important to your success. But like you said, I am not my idea. It's really important to separate yourself from the ideas. Hopefully you'll have 1,000 ideas. And if you are going to be every one of your ideas, then how is that manageable? How can you do that? Can you? So are you 1,000 ideas? So you are who you are, and so this is the work that I do with people. I help them design their belief system and ground them in a very powerful core that then they can attach to their ideas. How does this idea resonate with my core? How do I want to push it forward? And they can apply it to every idea. Does this make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, how do you, when you talk about, what's the risk of associating your self-esteem with your idea, and how does that manifest itself? Because I want to dig in. The reason that I started saying that to founders was because there were some red flags that I noticed, and this is my way of kind of distilling it, or at least prepping people to not exhibit those red flags. Can you dig in on what does it look like to associate your self-worth with your idea?
I think this is a great question, and I think it's important to separate. And so let's imagine your idea represents your career, okay? So we are whole individuals, right? There are lots of things that define who we are. So there is, if we imagine this as, if we imagined our life to be a pie, so career would be one slice of the pie. Or our idea would be one slice of the pie. Everything else would be our friends, our health, our relationships, fun and recreation, spirituality if you want that, or personal growth. So all those elements actually compose who we are. So if we define ourselves just by the slice of the career and how successful we are there, if that doesn't go well, then we are nothing. Right? So this is the risk that comes with putting all the cards and all our investment in just that, who we are. Our ideas, it's who we are. So we are more than that. And the more we invest in all the other components, actually the more enhanced the idea is.
So an example, I think, of what you're talking about is a red flag that we see with founders is if they are unable to separate their self-esteem or their self-worth from their idea, when their idea is attacked or their business is attacked and someone says something bad about it, it triggers a level of defensiveness that is inappropriate for kind of a confident founder with his business, right, or her business, right, where you would expect them to say, oh, it's interesting why you say that about my business. Let's together look at my business and figure it out. Whereas if their self-image is tied up in their business, it suddenly becomes an attack on me, and I feel like I have to fight you on it.
Classic. Yes, classic. So if you find yourself in a place where you are defensive, you are not maximizing anything. You are not you're not learning the most out of the situation, right? And you are not growing personally because you immediately kind of shut down. That's what happens. So I want to take it back to confidence. You asked if a founder's self-esteem and confidence is important. Yesterday I attended a lecture by Jeffrey Pfeffer, which I've read is one of his very famous book, about power. And one of the elements that in order to reach a state of power, and let's equate this right now in the business with success. He says the three elements that must be there are confidence, empathy with others, specifically the ability to take other people's points of views, and the capacity to tolerate conflict. Now, I want to connect that, what you just said, to the capacity of tolerating conflict.
I'm glad you're going here, so please keep going, yes.
Yes, because we want to have the ability to come to the table, not be defensive, listen to the other person's or many other people's views, and not immediately defend. Listen, and then say what is important here. how is this relevant to me? What from this I want to take in, what I don't want to. So if we're able to neutralize our emotions, this is emotional intelligence, right? Is our ability to be aware of what's happening right now in my body. Am I upset? Am I feeling like I want to push back? And then self-regulate that before I respond.
Is it more about, or maybe not more about, but is a large component just about being self-aware, so that if I know that I'm being defensive, I can stop being defensive, but if I don't know that, then I'm just operating on automatic mode, and I'm not, I don't realize till later.
Absolutely, yes, it's exactly that. Yeah, do you want to be on automatic mode? No. Right. Autopilot? No, you don't. You want more control. All of us want more control. The more control we have on our emotions, the better we'll do as leaders, because we're not subjects to those emotions. We are not going to just be sucked into that turbulence. We're going to say like, oh, I'm feeling pissed off right now.
Right.
Like, why is he attacking my idea? That's a great idea.
Right.
And so you kind of you feed the frustration, you feed the restlessness, you feed the anger, whatever it is however it is manifesting, instead of saying like, wow, being curious, like, wow, I'm feeling a blood rush right now. I want to punch someone,
right.
And kind of laugh at it, almost like be like, almost step out of your body if you can. Right. I know it sounds like Fufu California here,
but I think that's a good point. That's your job as a founder, is to like remove yourself from the emotions and to bring in as many ideas as possible to give your company the best chance. Like, your job is not to force your idea upon people. Your idea is to solve the original problem that you set out to do.
But it is a delicate balance, right? Because it's not just about removing your emotions, because you need those emotions to then muster your passion to go forward. It's just in those moments where the emotions are overwhelming you and getting in the way of your rational thought, you need to recognize what's going on and be able to kind of step out, as you're saying, and be productive.
I love that you say that, Carter, because the emotions are very, very powerful. I just for people to know out there, I just carried like a 10-pound book. It's very heavy because I thought I'm going to present it in the room to people.
You're so pissed at me right now.
It's that big. It's gigantic.
Like, founders, get over here. We need to do a session.
Why did they bring such a ridiculously heavy book?
Why did you do that?
It's beautiful.
We can hold it up in front of everyone.
You should bring it. It's in if you want. It's in the room inside the denim bag. And why did I bring that? Because that book I associate with emotions. The person that wrote that book is extremely inspiring.
Look at the size of this book.
Oh, I just about to start reading The Purple Cow.
Yes, Seth Godin.
Yeah. That is the most massive book I've ever seen.
I can hide behind my emotions.
Hide behind it. So that book is so magnificent.
What's the
it
name
represents
of this
so much to me.
What does it sound like when you change your mind? Okay.
How appropriate for
Awesome.
today.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, why this book? Because it represents a product that moved me emotionally. So it cost me $200. And it cost other people around the globe $400. Who spends $400 on a book? People that are moved emotionally.
Right.
So emotions are powerful. I want to bring it back to your point. So we don't want to get rid of them. We don't want to put them aside, but we want to use them to our benefit.
Right.
And of course, it translates into, can you create a product that moves people so they shed $200 like that on a book without blinking? Right. You use the power of emotion. So emotions are beautiful.
I'm glad you went and said that. So
awesome.
So I've got a bunch of questions that I wrote down for you, but one that's I'm kind of really curious about is, because no one really talks about this, startups are kind of en vogue right now, and have been for a while, and I think very few people stop to do a realistic self-assessment before they start a company about, do I really want to be a founder, right? Because it can sound very glamorous, and you can get swept up with the emotions of your idea, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to quit and go do that right now, but you never really stop to rationally analyze and do some introspection and think about, do I really want that life? Do I really want to be a founder? Is that something that you have run across? You're looking like maybe I'm not talking crazy to you. So talk about that for a minute.
We had her early on, like a Founder Institute. Like those are the rawest material.
Yeah, that's true. Those are very raw founders. So
she's like, actually, can you bring me in a couple weeks later so they at least they make it through 2 weeks?
Fair enough. Talk about what that process should be like for people, and then maybe what does happen and some issues that you see there.
So, first of all, it goes back to, are you ready to chew on a lot of glass? That's where it goes back to, to the quote we started with by Elon Musk. It's such a tough process. It requires extreme resilience, It requires you to be so fiercely focused, so to really, really kind of sign up for a roller coaster. Mm. This is like, extreme sport, I would say. Mm. So it just requires you to really stick with it and not give up. You can't be the giver-upper type. Mm. And that's tough.
How well do you think you have to know yourself in order to be a successful founder? Like, is it... Because I think a lot of I'm putting myself, because we've things like this, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of someone who's very excited about their new idea, and they're going to answer yes to all those questions if they don't think about them too much. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, oh yeah, of course I'm not a quitter. Yeah, of course I'm going to do this. Oh yeah, I can do the extreme sport thing, right? That's fine. But without a certain level of self-knowledge, you're not even answering those questions truthfully. So I'm wondering how important is self-knowledge before you start a company, or is it something that you can kind of not worry about too much?
I think it's very important because the self-knowledge, so this is what I say in my profession, right? And I said before, I help people redesign their belief system. So when you are digging in and reflecting on who you are, what's my belief system? Where did I pick it up from? Most people don't even know why they are who they are today. And I talk to people in their 50s. 30s, 40s, 20s, and they're like, I don't know why I follow this. I think I just picked it up from my parents, from my teachers, from my colleagues, from my roommate, from my partner. That's where I picked up my values.
Ad hoc philosophy, that kind of
super. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hello, let's sit down. You want to push through this business idea? Who are you? What do you stand for? What motivates you? When will you fall? How will you deal with that? So we have to chart this territory. Mm. And a lot of the exercises that I do with them is actually I tell them, go and talk to 10 entrepreneurs at various levels of success and come back to me a week from now and tell me what you've learned. Mm.
What are the learnings that you hear?
Oh my God. So some people just come back and say, it's not for me.
You save them a lot of time.
That's worth $1 million right there.
Yeah.
It is. Because people have these kind of beautiful fantasies, which are wonderful. I'm a dreamer, but I'm also a doer, and I walk my talk. I follow through, right? So dreaming is very important. It's stage number 1, dream. Mm-hmm. So, but like the follow through, do you have that in you? Can you put a team together that will follow that with you? And then, are you a superb communicator that you can keep you guys glued well together and coherent,
right?
And move forward as you grow. So a lot goes into that. Yeah. So, did this answer your question?
I think so. What are some of the biggest roadblocks you see to success for founders?
So, funny enough, not believing in themselves. Mm-hmm. Not believing in themselves.
It's hard to get other people to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah, right? But a lot of that, sadly, goes back to parents' histories. Sorry, that's therapy, right? That goes back to therapy.
I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, it's one book I want to recommend that was on my list to say earlier is The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, which is one that I recommend. Those are the 2 books we're recommending. But do you feel like the stigma for therapy is softening a little bit? Because I definitely meet a lot of founders who just will never go to therapy. They view it as a weakness or a sign that there's something broken rather than an optimization technique for their lives. Mm-hmm.
Well, that brings us back to what mindset are you? Like, do you have an open mindset? Will you try it? Do you speak from experience? Have you tried therapy once and do you know for sure it doesn't work? Because if you don't, then how will I value your opinion? What do you rest your argument on? Right? So it's very basic. So if you tell me this book sucks, mindset really sucks, Carter. I'm like, what? Why are you
Have you read it? No, right.
No, I haven't. But it sucks.
Right. But there's a lot of that happens in many areas of culture today where people have an opinion about something without actually having firsthand knowledge of the thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if that's how you want to live your life, from other people's experiences and not firsthand, great. That's the life you're designing for yourself, and you're missing a lot because you're relying on other people's experiences and thoughts processes.
Right.
Why would you do that? Would you tell someone else, please eat this chocolate cake for me? I really want to know how delicious it is.
No, but I'd love to be able to tell someone to take the medicine for me, or so, maybe not cannabis. But so, you came. I feel bad that you came in. Because of me. I'll take the blame for the miscommunication.
You should feel bad,
I
Carter.
feel so horrible.
I'm joking.
In fact, I'm gonna have to go to therapy after this for how bad I feel.
How about try a coach? I can help you with that. No conflict of interest at all.
The stigma for psychiatry is why coaching is a stigma.
Actually, there is a stigma associated with that too because of lack of knowledge again. So just so you know, coaching is very lighthearted. Just so for people to know what's the difference. It focuses on where you are right now, where do you want to go, how can we get you there in the best possible way, being very strategic, very action-oriented. So it's less dwelling on the past and who you are and why you are like that. It's identifying that, but then saying, okay, do you still want to be that? And if you say, no, I don't, I'm like, so who do you want to be? And let's design that person and let's move forward towards that.
Right. Right.
It's very action-oriented, very change-oriented. I've seen really cool things happening with people that are motivated. That's the key word here.
So I want to give you an opportunity to go over, you have a little handout.
Oh.
Do you want to talk about this or no? Because I feel like you could, but you don't have to. I want to give you some room to talk about.
So, I could. So do you remember we talked about the capacity to be with conflict, right? And we're going back to being defensive and how that doesn't serve the founders. I could connect the pinch model to that, and this could serve the founders if you like.
I think it would be cool to just see, for people to have a glimpse of kind of what it looks like to actually get some coaching and
okay, sure.
And we're talking in abstracts a lot. Right?
Yes, great. So let's look at the pinch model.
I don't know if people can necessarily see. Here, I'll do this. I'll hold this up. We'll hold this up on this camera, just in case.
That's really good.
No, is it working?
Okay, so
we'll put it in the notes.
All right, we'll put it in the notes, or you'll go to center camera now. I'll move out of the
because
way.
people can read. Okay, sure. So the pinch model, so back to communications, right? We want to maximize our communications with everyone around us. So I highly recommend for people to develop some kind of a mutual language for when you get triggered or when something pisses you off, that you have a way to kind of say, hey, I got triggered. So the pinch model, what it does, it gives all parties involved the same language to use. And so when your partner tells you something that kind of pisses you off, they've been saying this multiple times, and every time it kind of like touches a nerve, then you tell them, hey, that kind of pinched me. And you establish that language. So pinch, it's like I got triggered. This upsets me. And so what happens is most people, when they get pinched or get triggered, they don't talk about it because many people are kind of shy of conflict. They don't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to raise the issues. They don't know how to resolve it. And they're afraid to cause even greater chaos.
Most people equate expressing their feelings with blaming someone. And a lot of people, when they hear expressed feelings, feel blame. And I think what you're talking about is separating those two things and saying, like, Ben, I'm pinched by this thing he said, but it doesn't mean he did anything wrong. It's not a judgment against Ben. It's just a statement of fact.
Absolutely. So what you're doing is very correct. It's not about Ben, and it's about what's happening here in the middle between you and him, the relationship, the communications you are designing, right? So it's not about you pinched me and you're doing this.
So what if I turn around and say, yeah, that was the intent?
I mean, I think that actually would be another great conversation. Like, why is that your intent?
Sure.
Right?
Yes, right. So Carter is bringing kind of curiosity into the process, right? But then at the same time, he tells you, hey, but when you do that, I don't know if it's your sense of humor, it kind of pinches me. It kind of makes me upset in a way, and I wanted you to know that.
Yeah.
And then, so you can either be in the completely blind to that effect, which a lot of people are. They have good intention often, but they don't understand that sometimes what they say has a very different impact, far away from what they intended to share. So the pinch theory, again, which I think it's a theory that some Stanford professor came up with, it really, really is common sense. So what it says is, instead of letting all those pinches accumulate until there is a big bang and you start screaming at each other and everything gets out of control, which usually leads to two results. You either figure out how to resolve that and then you start all over again the same relationship, or you split. You say, you know what, I'm done with that, I'm gone. These are the two optional pathways. So with the pinch theory, it just gives you the tools to say, hey, I got pinched right now, before it escalates, before there is accumulation of lots of pinches, before the meltdown. And so when you notice one another, then you can just kind of maybe avoid the things that make each other pinch, because you want to be productive in your conversations, right?
Right.
It's all about productivity.
Right.
And how productive are we? So there are some really awesome questions here at the bottom of this pinch model. So if you change your pinches with each other, first of all, you have the same common word to use, right? So it's instantly a bond over a language. Even if there is disruption, you could kind of recover from that. You can either say, okay, great, good to know. How can we redesign it moving forward so we and so you have tools. Some of the questions is, so some of the comments is, for example, what expectations of mine weren't met? What expectations of theirs weren't met, of the other party? Were these expectations clear, specific, and stated? Am I sure they were understood? So it's all about clarity and communications again, right? In order to avoid misunderstandings.
Do you want to walk us through this diagram at all, or is it not necessary for what we're talking about?
I believe it's so self-explanatory.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so expectations, right? We have expectations. If we don't articulate them well, then there are perfect potentials for misunderstanding.
I'm going to point because I'm not sure everyone can read. So this is the expectations.
Yes. Then we have the agreements for commitments. What's my role? What's your role? The more specific you are, the better it is. And I've never heard of a really superb, perfectly designed relationship. There is always something missing that we have been given a thought to. Okay, so the pinches will guaranteed to come.
I've seen this actually. That part leads to a lot of conflict amongst a lot of partners and entrepreneurs, just because you have a certain expectation of them. They might have a certain expectation for themselves. If you don't actually sit down and define it together, then there will be some resentment at some point.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
May I add to that now that we are doing business internationally and there are so many multicultural are involved in every business, it's even more so because we bring different cultural behaviors that are very misunderstood between collaborators, co-workers. So even more so, we need to understand what's your understanding of this word, or when I say commitment, what do I mean? This is what I mean by that. Right. Ours specifically, like when we run into conflicts, I'm going to be here 24/7. That's commitment. Other people might not have that same commitment because they have families or other obligations, and they're like, my commitment is not quite that. You need to articulate all of that.
Okay, cool. So I guess we'll just leave this and let people go through it, or do you want to?
Yeah, so the more accurate you are and the more clearly you define that, you actually are more stable in the relationship because you really know where the other person stands. How wonderful is that? This actually allows us to play more together. Because we are more safe in that space. Does this make sense?
Sure. And it also gives you the right to be critical about something.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, I have the right to be mad at you if this is falling through the cracks.
I would switch right with safety. It's safer to be critical.
Sure.
Does this make more sense?
Totally.
Well, because we're more likely to both agree with the criticism because if you're saying it violates some pre-agreement that's very clear, it's like, oh yeah, I did say that and I didn't do it, so. Yeah. Okay.
So, and then that allows, if you follow the pinch model and you really share and you redesign, constantly redesign, people don't do that too. This is what we see in leadership. People don't communicate enough and they don't check in. Are things still the way as we talked about them 4 months ago?
Right.
People don't follow up and say, if something has changed, let's redesign.
Right.
It doesn't happen. And then that's where things kind of get cracked.
Yeah. Interesting.
So pinch, then disruption. Don't be scared of disruptions. It's very, very good. Why is it good? Because if you overcome the disruption and the conflict, you're stronger. And I have a friend who is a master carpenter, and he told me that his master carpenter that taught him, one of the very first thing he showed him was he took a piece of wood and he cracked it, he cut it in half. He put pressure on it, and it split. And then he said, let me show you how to glue it back together. And there is a very specific way to do it. You need to put glue on both ends and then rub it for a while together so the grains kind of get like rough a little bit and, the glue really gets in and then you connect it. And he says, now I guarantee to you that this piece of wood is much stronger where the glue is rather than the other sides. And he put it again to the same pressure and it didn't break where the glue was. So disruptions are good if you survive them. If you survive them.
Got it. This is super helpful. It reminds me of obviously this is applicable beyond a business. Not that we're here to talk about other relationships, but it reminds me of there's a real-time relationship model of communicating, which is very similar, where you're just kind of in real time talking about your reactions to things and kind of without a judgmental.
And then if you can suspend judgment, that's beautiful. And so I actually brought something. I don't know how much time we have.
You can.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
if it's an hour, that's a little bit much. But
I'm not going to read all of it. But I thought it was really funny that. So I talk about relationships and designing alliances and all of that good stuff. Where I saw a superbly designed alliance being done is actually by Quakers. Quakers, when they do their pre-wedding questions, they actually bring wise people to the table that guide a young couple, and they ask them so many questions before they actually give them their approval to get married. And what I thought that process is extremely thorough, very thoughtful, is actually showcasing a beautifully designed alliance with very careful attention to details.
Interesting.
So I can read you a couple of the questions.
Give us some examples of these questions.
Okay, so the committee can be guided by these suggested queries for the couple, okay? How did the couple meet? What values and beliefs do they hold in common? On what matters do they differ? Can they meet differences with humor and respect? Are they open to considering outside help if such guidance seems warranted? Do they both see marriage as sacred? Well, that's specifically to marriage, but are they open to seeking divine assistance? And let's translate divine assistance to startup entrepreneurs. What would that be?
Advisors.
Carter and Ben?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Totally.
God analogy is perfect for us.
Perfect. You see, we tied you in. So do they each see?
Or Satan, but whatever.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
I would go for choice number one. Do they each see themselves as their partners as equal and trusted, sharing responsibilities, decisions? Do they communicate feelings, needs, dreams, and fears? You can see how all those really wonderful questions, and the list goes on and on, really can help any founder that brings in another co-founder or any even a VC. Anyone that will help you. You can see how if you can kind of craft a beautiful questionnaire for everyone, it would start you on a very, very solid foundation.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you for coming in and doing this. I know we do need to wrap up soon, but
yes.
I want to tie this back really quickly to, it sounds, I think maybe I'm projecting, but one of my concerns is that people are looking at this thinking, what does this really have to do with startups and founders? This is a lot of woo-woo talk and, It's about relationships, and I don't care. I've just got to write my code and move on. And the thing that I want to really say is from our perspective, and actually one of the guys at Techstars just wrote about this in an AMA today or yesterday. The founders and the founding team are what everyone is looking at. It's what the investors are looking at. It's what your potential employees and advisors and everyone around you is looking at. The founding team, and part of that is your psychology, how you relate, how strong they think you are. And the reason they're looking at that is because more often than not, that's what actually ends up breaking a company. Not that they didn't have money, but that they quit or they split up or they had something that blew up. I mean, so many founder teams blow up. So many founders end up quitting because it's not like what they thought. And there is real practical reasons why this is very, very important. It's not just us pontificating about the happiness of what it would be.
Absolutely.
To be like to be a good founder.
So I don't know if you know, Carter, that I'm also a trained mediator. And so
for marriages or just generally?
General.
Oh, okay.
So any conflict.
Okay.
Any conflict.
And so emotions and feelings and all that foo-foo stuff is at the heart of every conflict. Every conflict. Right. And when a good mediator gets to the heart of that and helps people kind of neutralize the emotions, then they are able to get to an agreement. Because because your emotions cloud your decision making.
Right.
You're not able. So I actually helped a bunch of founders at the end of their relationships with their breaking down their businesses because of major disagreements and a lot of emotional chaos. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Drama. And that took down very successful businesses that made a lot of money.
Right.
So that's what it states.
All taken down by drama.
By drama.
Yeah.
Drama.
Yes,
Yeah.
and too late. When they engaged me, for example, or an outsider, too late in the game.
Right. They could have
Too
maybe
much
saved
damage.
it way
They could
earlier.
have.
But
They
yeah.
could have. They could have.
Yeah. That's too
So
bad.
that's how it relates. you
So it's
know?
super important. I just wanted to have an underline that this is
I'm like,
So
important.
Iris, can you come in this weekend?
Successful businesses that make money.
Yeah, I
went
got this
down.
co-founder who's a pain in the ass. I wonder if we can talk about him later offline.
Totally.
But Ben's playing some
My
music
exit
over
music.
there. Anyway, thank you again for coming, and thank you all for joining. You can follow Iris at Iris CHARABIB, Sharabi B. Is that right?
Iris Sharabi Bergren.
Yes, at Iris Sharabi.
Oh,
B
you are
at Twitter,
Oh.
Twitter, yes.
or iriscb.com.
That's so
That's
the best
easier.
one. That's
That's
the
my
best
favorite one is iriscb.com because I can say it and
It's
spell
so
it.
easy.
Yes. So thank you again for coming. That's all for this week. Next week, I think we're going to talk about co-founders, which is kind of related, very related to
Very
this discussion.
related.
So stay tuned for that. As Ben said earlier, we are broadcasting live from the Gateway Works building headquarters. You can see us every Friday at 10 a.m. on Facebook or at oh.ggwy.co. And if you want to come in and work out of Gateway Works, use the discount code GatewayOH, and you get $150 off your first month. So I think that's
May
it.
I add
yes.
that I highly recommend for you to add the link for the TED Talk that I suggested. It's
We will
fantastic.
add
We'll add the
link
link.
that you
We'll
Super
add all
funny
the stuff
and
below.
wonderful.
Yeah. So look for
Excellent.
it below here on Facebook. Also, these get uploaded to YouTube. Oh, and we have a podcast now. You can
That's
actually
why
go to
I'm doing this super
iTunes.
high-tech music, so we can
You
do
can
that.
you can go to iTunes and you can subscribe to the Gateway Office Hours podcast, and you won't get the visuals, but you will get the audio. So,
Which is super important.
all right, thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Luke, for taking over for Michael in the back for today.
Luke.
Did a great job switching cameras. I think you guys can be the judge, and we'll see you next week.